Thank you. All right, we'll call the meeting to order then. It is 7:02. And I guess the first order of business is, does anybody have a pecuniary interest? Anybody have a conflict of interest with anything that we're going to be discussing, covering, talking about tonight? You can share that with us now. Excellent. Okay. Delegations. Item number C. Do we have any delegations?
No.
Great. Great. Then move Stephanie, no delegations. No. Great. Moving on to reports from officials then. The D1, Recreation and Cultures Advisory Committee. The minutes from June 11. Any concerns, questions, anomalies, anything that stands out before we move forward and accept those minutes of the June 11th meeting? I didn't notice anything, but that doesn't mean anything. All is good.
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to D2, activity report. The Director of Recreation, Parks and Facilities. Craig, this is your
Yep.
opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So before you have the report for basically the summer of recreation and parks and facilities operations, the first thing I want to talk about is back in April, this didn't hit the agenda before, so I brought it up now, was the Corporate Services Committee received a request to uh, turn a parcel of land up on Russell Drive, which is already dedicated parkland, but to engage in looking at developing that into parkland. So the 3312 Russell Drive, and the request from the community was to name it after longtime community volunteer David Russell and look at dedicating a memorial park there and as a passive park. So council was very excited about that idea. So we're going to move forward and put in the 2025 budget. We're going to put in an amount of dollars to get an architect to do a design of the area. It is a little bit of a complicated lot that we're going to have to look at. We're going to have to include things like accessibility. It's a dense forested lot right now, so how we look at it, there's a nice rock outcrop in it, but it's also very steep to the water. So the request was to do uh, passive park with a bench on the edge of the water. I'm not sure, just like topography, whether that will work for accessibility, but we are going to look at other ideas, whether it's like a platform lookout with accessibility, and we have to look at parking in the area too, and signage and those kind of things. But it's a very exciting project that we're going to get onto for next year, and have a design and bring that to the committee to look at and see where we go from there. But exciting aspect. So that makes actually two passive parks up in Port Severn that we're going to be designing next year. That will
Is
go
it,
in the
I'm
budget.
sorry, Craig, if I could
Yep.
interrupt, is everybody familiar with it, where this is? This is page number 6 of the
Yep.
agenda. On the PDF I'm seeing is as slide 10.
Yep.
If anybody hasn't gone to that. Now, the high ground is at the road, is it, Craig? And then it slopes to the water?
It is. Yeah. If you look at the picture, you see the high ground's at the road, but you see a dark area, and I think that's the rock outcrop. So
Okay.
in that area, but yeah, it slopes down. It's a pretty good slope down to the water from there. I hiked it back in the spring and looked around in early summer in May at it, and before all the the trees grew, with all the foliage, so and got in there, and before the bugs. But yeah, so there are opportunities there. It's just figuring out how we make this work. So it's exciting. It's a challenging park to try and develop just because of the topography and what we can do in there. But something for the community that they want to see a memorial there, and with the park being named after, we have to make it accessible because he was on the accessibility committee. A great environmentalist, from what I hear. So these are all the kinds of things we want to weave into this project and make the community proud of it. So it's exciting. And as I said, then we have the other Port Severn property tied in. So we're looking to tie in the contract to do the design of these into one. So We have one architect designing both of them in the same area. So, and we look at the Port 7 property because we've already, as the last meeting, determined that to be a passive park and what that design will look like. And we've recommended that that be included in the budget too, to have a design done of that. So that will have accessibility included into it. It's obviously a lot flatter lot. So we look at things like parking and accessibility, washrooms, those kind of things. Waterfront has a bit, it's easier to get to the waterfront there too. So with some accessibility. So it's an exciting time to tie both those projects in together. So um, that will be included in the 2025 budget. An update for West Shore. So we've recently been informed that 3 grants have opened up for the West Shore project. So we're scrambling a lot right now, getting letters of support, putting everything together for the grant applications. We have another meeting at the staff level tomorrow about where we're at with the grants, because the one opened up on the 4th, and we have basically a month to get all these together and get everything in. So we have the 1 grants through the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund to provide up to 10 million. And then we have the Green Inclusive Building Community program, which can provide up to 25 million, and we can put those grants on top of each other because they're from different agencies. We're also looking at the Green Municipal Fund too as another grant possibility to get in there. Plus, there'll be other grants further down the road, but these are main construction grants. It's because we're doing a lot of the green initiatives too, like the geo testing for the wells that is supposed to be this week, where they'll be drilling in the parking lot to go down about 800 feet to see what kind of energy sources are down there for us. So we're hoping these projects, because of that green initiative, receive funding like that, and we get all these letters of support from the community for it. So very busy time. Happy to have our new economic development officer on board with us, who's helping with these grants, which is a great process. So for that, we've started the budget process internally with staff. We're going through it, just finalizing this week. We're going to continue with the October meeting for crack, and that's when we'll bring the budget to you for review to come back for recommendation to council. We should have it done internally by the next week, and then have some discussions. We just a lot of big projects on the go for this department with West Shore, and then a municipal office, and then we're going to integrate. We're going to do a 5-year capital plan, and we're integrating the master plan and the recommendations for the first 5 years into that plan. So you'll see a lot of things coming forward that will map out the next couple of years. We know we have some other big projects on the demands from the community too, such as Bass Lake, improving that park. We know Timberline Park, the playground equipment and the fitness equipment are reaching the end of their lives within that 5-year term. So we'll be looking at improvements to that park as well. So a lot of big things on the go that are going to be coming. So also at the community services meeting a few weeks ago, we had a request for an off-leash dog park. So that's been referred to the process for the Coldwater Fairgrounds Master Plan. Council referred it to that. It was identified in the master plan. There was an area in the preliminary design where they were talking about the horse pens, whether it be converted to a dog park too. And at the time, it's not being used for the fair. So that is something that's already definitely been identified in the plan. So we're going to refer that to that consultation process, and hopefully we can get some more feedback on that. We've invited the individuals there's been more than one to come to the sessions. I'm expecting we're going to get a large turnout for these sessions, which is really good. So we're excited about that. We've also, in addition, on the August 28th meeting, council received a request to change the Kelly's Landing boat dock and launch in Port 7 to be renamed the Guide Dock after some historical information. So council approved that. So we're going to be looking towards that and developing some heritage interpretive signs to be incorporated in the signage up there. So lots of things on the go. Sport courts, Marchmount and Michigan, and now Coldwater is done. So Coldwater Sports Court is open as of last weekend. It looks great. We're going to, before it gets cold, lay down some more asphalt to make the pathway accessible over the gravel there's a little bit of a dip from the pathway that goes around the fairgrounds to the court. So we put down contractor put down some gravel, but it's not accessible grade. So we're gonna just do some paving. Get one of the local contractors we have on the go with some paving to come in, give us some asphalt, and lay that down, and make the pathway accessible. To complete that, the one bad news is we've already had it vandalized.
Yeah.
So twice now. So we opened it up on the contractor didn't put a lock on, and the kids got in there and took the net off. I think in that instance they were looking just to play full court basketball. The net wasn't damaged, but the second time the tennis net was damaged and torn up in the crank, and staff are working to try and put it back together. But I think we're going to see a high basketball demand at that court. We've already heard instances of like 30 people playing on the court and lined in a sub out. So we're trying, but we've also had a request for the tennis nets too, for tennis from some individuals who come up and talk to Trevor and I about that. So we're trying to figure out. We don't want to keep putting the tennis net back on it if it's going to keep getting damaged. So maybe we'll be dealing with requests during the day for the tennis net to go on, and then have staff remove it. The challenge will be in the summertime next year when kids are out of school, and how we're going to do that. Stephanie's working on a grand opening date for it because we still have that one food truck coupon to go. So we're trying to see if we can get the local public school out to come over and use the court and engage them that way. And hopefully that engages them, and we can get them maybe to stop damaging the court and engage them that way. So hopefully it looks good, and it's open, and pickleball is ready they want to get on it. So we're getting the nets for them too. So it's good. It's just managing. I think we're going to see a lot higher demand on that court than the other two. And so it's just managing that process. So, in addition, we started the process we had in the budget to repaint the Washego water tower. Once we started into that process, we realized that it could be a lot of lead paint on that. So we've engaged Pinchin, who's going out the next week, to do a substance test for us and see what we're dealing with before we can paint it. So that's the first part of the process. So at this point, it's going to get cooler, so we probably won't be painting until next year, because if it drops below 10 degrees, the paint's not going to stick. They're probably going to clean it this year and then go from there. So we're going to see what comes back from the report from Pinchin and go from there. The ice for the arena the plant will be turned on September 30th, and we anticipate the first day for October 7th. So we're already back into that season, getting going there. Parks are still on the go with grass cutting and the porta pies. They'll continue into the fall season. We're back and forth with Fluent Disc Golf on the designs of the disc golf course in Washego. We're just trying to figure out. They wanted more tree plantings than I'm comfortable with and want. We want to keep certain areas of the park open for public use, and I don't think we need a lot of trees where they want. So we're just back and forth on design, trying to figure out what the best design is. Beach volleyball court is going in next week. It's going in beside the sport court, so we've moved over to that area just to keep open spaces close to the beach, and we think it fits in naturally over in the sport court area. We have ball diamonds, sport courts, soccer field, so we're putting it over there. So that's great. The Seven Falls dock project is complete now. The lights are in, so we're just waiting on final electrical hookup, but it's pretty much done. The trails, as everybody remembers, we applied with Simcoe County to do e-bike stations at the end of the Utah Trail in Coldwater for chargers. Unfortunately, Simcoe County wasn't successful in getting their grant, but just off on the side, I was having a side conversation with the Trans-Canada Trail, and they let me know that they have funding available for things we need. So they are now sponsoring the e-bike charge stations for us and giving us a grant of just over $12,000 for it. So that's great, which is also good news that we're aware of another source of funding for work on that trail, that if we get into their program, which they seem very keen, which will help us with our maintenance. So good news there. So the e-bikes or the charge station has actually already been delivered to the Coldwater Arena. So we're just going to have to figure out timing of when to get it in for next season. So that's good news. Programs and facilities. Stephanie's better to talk about these, but I'll just run over them quickly. Public skating is starting on October 8th. Shuffleboard is returning October 8th. October 29th, the regular scheduled drop-in times will take effect. Some new programs, Jump Fit for Beginners is coming. There's going to be some craft nights, one in Washago and one in Coldwater in October. Stephanie's actually running one of them. So if you have any questions, she'll be great to answer that. And we're hopefully having a Halloween themed PA day camp. So a lot of things on the go in the department right now. So yeah, so that's my report.
Great, thanks, Craig. Well done. I've got 3 speakers that requested to speak. Judith, your name was up first. Your
Okay,
hand was up. Do you remember what
yeah.
you wanted to say?
I wrote them down. That's what I had to
Atta
get
girl,
done.
well done.
The first one is Coldwater.
Mhm.
Craig, should we maybe be looking at another just basketball court?
I think we may have to look at that. Like, I think that's going to come in the master plan. Like, if there's such a high demand up there,
Yeah,
like,
it seems to be. I'm getting a lot of
yeah,
questions and wanting a basketball court. I never
yeah,
hear from a lot of other ones. So that might be
no,
something we look
yeah,
at in November.
yeah. I think it's definitely something we have to look at because, yeah, like we thought, okay, we're getting a high basketball demand. Then all of a sudden, gentleman rode up on his bike to Trevor and I in front of the arena, and he's like, "When are the tennis nets going back on? I heard they were damaged, but we want to play tennis." And it's like, okay, we didn't even know that component was up here. So okay, so yeah, so it is entirely possible we may need a dedicated sole basketball court,
Yeah,
and then
I'm wondering.
line them
And
up.
the other one, when you were talking about the passive parks, you
Mhm.
said architect. You're talking about a landscape architect, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the one in Port Severn, are we looking at fencing between Leduc's and us?
I think that'll be part of it. We'll have to look
Okay.
at something
Or
to,
some type of a divide so that
yeah, divide so the
they have
public
their
isn't going.
privacy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that
And I
will
just have one quick one.
sure
Wasn't anything on here. Is the portable gone or is it still there?
at that Port Severn
And
property.
no, the portable in Coldwater at the arena.
That's a good question. I
I know
would
I
have.
didn't go by. All of a sudden
Yeah.
somebody asked me and I went, oh, I
It
hadn't
should be
known it was
it
gone.
should be gone by
It's
now. The
gone?
ball season.
Okay.
I don't know if it is,
Grace
but
saw it.
the
It's
ball
gone.
season's over. Yeah, the ball
Yeah,
season's over.
Grace at a girl. Okay, I just wondered. Somebody had asked me and I said, gee, that's funny. I never went
Yeah.
down by there. So
Yeah.
thanks, Grace.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Thanks, Judith. Grace, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple questions through the chair to Craig for the Coldwater Multi-Sports Court.
Mhm.
I noticed, because I've checked it out a few times, and there's a set of bleachers that's on the opposite side of the playground equipment. Will that court get a separate set of bleachers? Or will you move the bleachers to utilize both?
Yeah, I think through the chair, I think that's a bigger question because I asked staff, like being relative, like because the court project was started before I got there, and I said, were the bleachers originally bought for that court? And they actually told me no, they were bought before and they were put on the side of the playground to help protect the playground.
Yeah.
So it's like, so that becomes a bigger question now, okay? Because we know the community wants the playground protected, and how are we going to do that when we have to still deal with the parking issue one day in there? So I think that's going to come down, like we can buy another set of bleachers, but or we can move that one and set up bowlers. Like I think this is all gonna. I want to see what comes out of the fair board or the fairground study,
Yeah.
and see what the design is because we need to tackle that whole area for safety. And if we're going to do something else for safety around that playground, then we can just move the bleachers over and put them over. But yeah, it was. I had originally thought because we had other ones in Marchmount and Washago that were bought for the sport courts, but these ones were bought before that. So yeah.
Yeah, because those bleachers look very nice at Washago and
Yeah,
Marchmount.
yeah.
Yeah. So second question too, and through the chair to Stephanie, I presume, how, I was just curious about the drop-in pickleball at the Coldwater Arena, and it was $250 every time. Supposedly, every time I went, I paid $250. How did that work out? Do you think, I mean, I guess some money is better than no money. I was disappointed with some of the people that I knew didn't pay, but maybe there's going to be improvement for next year or different plans. I was just curious.
I mean, it's still, sorry, through the chair, it's still, what does it end? This week? I believe?
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday's the last day. I'll probably chat with arena staff then to kind of get an idea of how it worked. In terms of like next year, then yeah, we'll kind of like take to see how that's gonna look for next year. Ideally, I would love to have like a staff be there to take money, so then we know that money's actually being provided and taken. But yeah, that could be a discussion that we can discuss for next summer.
Because I know, my friends that came, they certainly don't mind paying because certain places we pay elsewhere. So yeah, so that's not a problem. And just going back to the multi-sports court for the pickleball, I had contacted you. I know somebody that potentially could be the guardian, and also with that person, I believe that we can actually get something going for next year. Wabashine has a successful app they can use to know who wants to come and play on a certain night. So I know there's some other logistics that would go into it. I know previously, depending on the demand, that maybe the court can only be for basketball on such and such a night or these time frames. So I know that would be work in progress, that if we could have Wednesday nights, let's say, for pickleball in Coldwater. So, but lots of things to think through, and we'll see what happens over the winter. But just food for thought on that one.
Yeah, you and I can always chat more about that as well. And then, yeah, we can figure out how exactly we're going to do with the community steward. And just based on what kind of has been said so far about the Coldwater one, it looks like we're likely going to have to put a schedule for that one.
Yeah.
Shego, it doesn't seem like it's been as much of a problem yet, but there could be something that we have to then implement for both Wishego and Coldwater.
Okay. And just one last thing, the more that I'm down there and see, and having the concept that this is Coldwater Fairgrounds Park, it's terrific to see so many elements of the park. And of course, having that, it looks terrific. And of course, with the fall fair coming up, it's going to get more visibility and more attraction. And hopefully it's locked for when that fair happens. But anyway, so looks good. So good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grace. Wanda, I saw that you were next.
Hi, thanks. Through the chair. Interesting. So just further to what Grace was asking you, Stephanie, is there a cost to use pickleball? Like, what's this $2.50? I'm not sure. I thought the courts were free, or is that something else?
Through the chair to Wanda. Yeah, so if you're using the sport courts, it's free to use. But the indoor at Coldwater, that has a cost.
Okay. Thanks. I wasn't aware. Okay, so a couple questions. Thanks, Craig, for your report. You mentioned a few things that are coming, which is great. So the e-bike charging station grant, will that only cover one charging station, or are we going to get one in West Shore, which we really need?
Through the chair to the counselor, it only covers one. That was in conversation with the County of Simcoe. They had reached out to all the municipalities, and they were looking for areas of high traffic and where bikes may be coming through. They're looking to boost. It's like a tourism initiative. So their idea was, they're the ones who approached and said, we want to put one in Coldwater and at the end of the trail. For us though, like, we can always explore one down in West Shore, like down that way for sure, as part of the project. I think that would make sense. We're talking about charge stations for cars in the parking lot there as part of the project. So I think a bike charge station down that way would be great too, something we can incorporate into the project. For this one, it was just purely Simcoe County saying, we want to put one in each township. We're one of the few townships still on the board with them on this project. Basically, everybody else, I believe Tay is still in it. But everybody else is backed out of it once the funding was gone. But we were fortunate enough to get the funding through the Trans-Canada Trail to cover our half. So we stayed on board. So
okay,
I think it'll be great. It's a long hookup from the fire hall over. So that's the big expense, is running the electrical from the fire hall over to the trail entrance. So.
Okay, thank you. I just have two more questions. Yep. The next one's on the disc golf. I remember the presentation you gave.
Yep.
earlier this year, probably on the disc golf. Is where across the township would those be going in, or are you looking at one area?
I think right now we're going to stick to one. We know we have potential other areas, but we want to put one in right now in Washago. We had originally thought Timberline. We know Coldwater, so Coldwater will be part of the study process about. So we know there is some individuals who want disc golf up in Coldwater. With Timberline, we thought about, but because of the way this new course program is with Fluent Disc Golf, we're trying to figure out, we want to see how it works in Washago. And as I previously talked about earlier in the meeting, like Timberline Park, the playground equipment and the fitness equipment are within our next 5-year period are going to need to be replaced. And then we have the ball diamond there. And I was thinking we want to do a larger community consultation there of what that community wants to see. If we're going to redevelop this park, what do you want to see in the park? I don't know the age groups in that area, so we want to know what age groups we have in there. Is that ball diamond used much? Is it useful? Do you want a half court? Do you want a sport court? Like what needs to go in? We know we have to replace the playground equipment, which will be about $75,000. Currently, there's no accessible pathways to the fitness equipment. So if we replace that, we're looking at developing pathways. So I think before we start throwing things in there, I think a larger plan's in place for like that court and that park in Bass Lake are some of our aging parks, and those are the ones we need to look at on how we're going to develop them in the future, because the demographics in the community are probably starting to change, and we want to look at that. So let's stick with, it's a long answer, I know, but let's stick with one disc golf in Washago and see how it takes there and go from there. So
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And around the disc golf, I think that's a great decision, because just in chatting with people around Timberline, it would probably monopolize much of that area, and I'm not sure it's going to be that's the right spot for it. But and my last question is just regarding Timberline. So you touched again on replacing playground equipment. So my question was anything more, but you mentioned a community consultation before that ever happened. So yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
yeah, I think our plan is identifying the budget. Like we have the passive park consultation, like development for next year. I think it would be 2026. We're identifying the 5-year plan for Timberline to get its development going. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Wanda. And Cheryl, I saw that you had your hand up as well.
Yes, I do. Through the chair to Craig, first, I want to say thank you, Craig, and for the staff of Severn for going about and getting all these grants. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm really glad to hear. I know it takes a lot of work, but I just want to thank you so much. I do have a question though around the Green and Inclusive Building Program. I noticed that they have like 3 different levels of grants. So I'm wondering, is the township able to apply for more than one grant? Because we do have other buildings that could probably use some infrastructure redevelopment. So I didn't know if they did, if you could, or if you were able to do that.
Through the chair, we haven't explored that for other buildings right now. In my experience, I'm always hesitant to put in more than one application to the same funding body and compete against, especially if it's a lower value. Like this is a large project.
It is.
Don't think we want to
No,
compete against it in any way and jeopardize, because if it comes down to a decision to make, okay, you can have 5 million, but your other little project only requires 200,000. Well, here you go. And it's and there's your allocation. So I'm always, in my career, I've always been hesitant to do that and look, but for those smaller things. But to be honest, we haven't explored any other building because we've been so focused on West Shore of let's get this out for West Shore. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to check. I also have another question too, and that is, I'm wondering if you had started to explore foundations. I noticed that Mateer was able to get funding for their playground equipment from the Mitch Marner and the Shania Twain Foundation. And also, I just came across a friend of mine who does grant stuff. She was telling me about Enbridge. They will fund camps for children from lower income. So I just wondering if those have been, if you've started exploring foundations.
Through the chair, we haven't yet, but those are definitely on our map. Like I know, yeah, some companies replace playgrounds. Yeah, like I've heard of Molson and doing that too, and replacing playgrounds. You get a lot of volunteer commitment that way. So we haven't got to that point yet, but that's something definitely we can look at. Seeing where we can get finding extra funding is always great. So, and
You know,
yeah, yeah. So
it is, but it takes a lot of work. I know
it
that.
does. Yeah,
I
it
think,
takes a lot of campaigning, and yeah.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Excellent. And with that, any more questions, comments? Wanda?
Sorry, Cheryl, you tweaked my my thoughts on. I did want to ask a question today through the chair, and I'm not sure if it's to the broader committee or to Craig. I know we discussed it at our last council meeting, and it was around when we get to it. And I know you're applying for grants for the West Shore Recreation Center, but the naming of it. And you had responded at that point that there really isn't a name for it. Sometimes it's the rec center, the community center. My question to you is, what's the role, if any, for this committee in helping or leading or being involved in the naming of it? Because at some point we'll have to name it.
Through the chair, that's a good question. I think this committee would be really involved. Like I think things we're gonna have to look at. What like this committee is obviously going to recommend a name for it after discussion. We can present options. The other question is, are you selling the naming rights to the facility? Like that's something to explore too. Um, there's like where I live down in Durham region, a lot of the rec facilities are named after developer companies who give money to it, and so that's one option. There's all kinds of sponsorship deals. It could be a memorial center named after somebody who donates a lot money to the project. Um, Naming rights are usually on contracts for a couple of years, and then you put it back out. That's through a whole bidding process and tendering process. So that's a public process to do that. We would have to set fees and bylaws, and so it's a lot of work to do that. As for the basic name for it, even before you get to that, that's something I would fully expect this committee to recommend. Like once we were hoping to have the plans complete in the next 2 weeks. So, and then we'll be bringing those plans to the committee um, to have a look at. So we're just finalizing the designs. They're doing we have to wait on the results of the geothermal test so they can make sure that the HVAC and all that. But we're really pushing them hard because we have these grants and we want the design done and a price point done in the next 2 weeks. So, but as for naming, that's totally something will come back to the committee and they will make a recommendation to council, I would expect. So
Maybe something we have to put on the meeting on the agenda to
yeah.
somehow to diplomatically come up with a number of names that we can select from. Yeah, good point, Wanda. Thank you. I hadn't thought of it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point.
Through the chair, we'll be bringing that probably sooner than later because any kind of signage will have to be incorporated into the project. So we're going to have to make sure we know what the name is going forward, probably within the next 6 months. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments on reports from officials at this point? Great. All right then. Then moving on to, and I'm assuming, Stephanie, we're going to do one motion for element D or item D, D1, 2, 3 all at once. Correct?
Through the chair, I still have my report to go.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then, yes, I have a motion set for the 3.
Excellent. Great. So with that, Stephanie, you're up. Community Recreation Survey results and program development update, please.
Thank you. So it's been about a month now since our survey has closed. So I just went through and compiled. It was about over 80 pages long after all of the comments and questions were answered. So I went through and just created a summary to kind of figure out what the biggest points were that we gathered during the survey. So we did have a total of 295 community responses, which, from what I've been told, is pretty good considering past reports and surveys that we've had before. What the major findings that I did find in going through the survey was there was a lot of people that were really interested in low impact fitness classes, so yoga, Zumba, as well as outdoor programs, so more nature-based kind of programs like gardening and stuff, as well as arts and crafts, so painting, sculpture, stuff like that, as well as camps, cooking classes, which included even just like cooking classes for vegan families was quite large too, like learning to cook with your kids. As well as some dance classes and high impact fitness classes and sports, including pickleball. Those were some of the higher programs that I gathered, as well as evenings were the preferred, which is makes sense. There was a decent amount for early mornings, which likely is just for those that are retired, but the evenings were a lot more popular. So that is one thing that I took note of. And then there also were specific days that were a little bit more popular. Weekends, surprisingly, I noticed actually had a quite low percentage, which I was a little surprised by. But mostly the most popular days were Monday through Thursdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays were the most popular days for programming. As well as youth and teens were identified as high priorities for programming. So that is definitely going to be a population that we're going to target. As well as preschool and seniors were also included in that. There also was a high respondent percentage that were saying that people were likely to participate in programs, but that obviously depended on certain things. So if it was on convenient times, depending on where the locations or where the programs were held, as well as what the programs exactly were. And some awareness and barriers that we did find in the survey as well were that a lot of people didn't know what programs existed, as well as they just needed more communication to be aware of what those programs are. Some others were just depending on schedule. So some programs that have been run in the past or that are currently being run are not after work times, so not a lot of people are able to enroll in them. And then for the facility and park usage, Coldwater Community Center and Weshego Community Center, they were the most frequented facilities, with 38% of Coldwater Community Center and 27% of Weshego Community Center. Lake St. George and Matchedash Heritage, they had lower percentages, but that's likely just due to lack of awareness, as well as they are run outside of the township of Severn as well. So that could also be contributing to that. And then there also was 35% of respondents that don't visit any of the facilities in Severn, and likely just due to the lack of awareness and barriers that were mentioned above. And then same with the parks, again, Coldwater Fairgrounds and Weshego Centennial Park. They are the most visited with 41% of Coldwater and 44% with Weshego. Bass Lake Woodlands Park also had 17%, which was a higher number. And specifically when asked where and why they went to the parks, it was mainly for the outdoor ice rink. And then again, most people didn't attend based on, or didn't go to specific parks based on lack of awareness, or there just wasn't a lot of offerings in each location. And then the docks and boats, the most is Coldwater and the Quetton, which is the one at Weshego. So they are 13% and 12%. Other facilities like the McLean Lake Dock and the Severn Falls, they were visited, but a lot less frequently. But there is a very high number of 59% of respondents that don't use the docks or boat launches, either just due to not owning a boat, using other locations, or just preferring to go to neighboring municipalities like Aurelia. So the next steps that we are going to be taking based off of the responses from the survey, just going to expand programs more. So specifically focusing on those highly requested programs. So the low impact fitness classes, outdoor programs, arts and crafts, camps, just to address that community interest. I have been meeting with some people to bring some of those programs in, which I'm really excited about. I know right now we do have Kelsey, who is doing our Jump Fit beginner, but that's a little bit more of the high impact classes. So trying to kind of meet with people to offer that lower impact. As well as just prioritizing those populations. So again, focusing on the needs of the youths and teens and seniors and when developing those future programs. When developing those, just making sure that the program times that are preferred, so evenings and those specific days, are included, as well as making sure that communication and outreach to increase the awareness is going to be done as well. So I know Tracy and we work on getting those recreation updates out. So we'll still be doing those. And if we get to that point of, or when we get to the point of having a lot more programs, we'll start to explore the program brochure. And then still just making sure that social media postings will be out as well to get the word out for the programs. And then also just making sure that we're taking into consideration the popularity of the facilities and parks. So then we can get a better idea of how many people will actually participate based on that. And the timeline, so the recreation update should be out either tomorrow or the following day. Tracy and I are just working on the last little bits of those, but that will have some of those new programs, which Craig had mentioned in his previous. So there will be a free Halloween class with the Wisheko Art Club, and then I will be doing a little haunted house that you make out of chocolate. It's basically like a gingerbread house, but Halloween and chocolate. So we'll be doing that as well, and it's planned before a public skate as well, so then families can go enjoy public skate afterwards, so it kind of gives them a little bit more things to do rather than just that program. And then Kelsey, who runs our Jump Fit, she wanted to do a PA day, and she has offered to do PA days just in general. So that is great that we can get something out for our camps until we hear back from the grant that we applied for, and until we kind of get a better idea of what we need exactly for camps. As well as, yeah, Kelsey also is offering 3 programs. She did just actually include a new one that's a HIIT program, so high intensity interval fitness or training. So there will be 3. One of those is Jump Fit for beginners and Jump Fit for kids. So we're hitting that youth and teens population as well. And yeah, so hopefully we'll start to get those out. And then any of those people that I've met that I'm meeting with, one of them is a yoga instructor and another is a Zumba instructor. So hopefully be able to get those out in the next few months. Hopefully before 2025 would be ideal, but we will see depending on the schedules and what they look like and what those instructors are able to offer. And then for financial considerations, Craig and I are meeting further to kind of give a better idea of what that budget will be, and we'll discuss further at the next meeting in October.
Great. Well done. Thank you for that. That's terrific. Grace, I saw you had your request to speak card up.
Yeah, thank you through the chair to Stephanie and or Craig. Refresh my memory. Did the portal to be able to apply for a program to participate in, did that ever get updated? Like, did we ever get new software? Because right now, like before, if you wanted to apply for a program, you had to actually fill out a form. Is that right? Or is it, so help me out. Did it get updated, or we're still at a standstill? Because I think last time we talked, we're hoping to maybe partner with another community or a municipality, I should say, to use their program. Or does that sound familiar?
Through the chair, are you referring to like registering into a program?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so we currently are still using the previous software system that we were using before. So there isn't an online function yet.
Oh,
We are working on moving to a new software, which will be the same as what's being used right now for permits and to pay bills and stuff online.
Okay.
We're just meeting. I actually have a meeting with one of the people who is dealing with that. I have a meeting with him on Friday morning. So we'll hopefully be able to start to get the ball rolling there because I would love to have online registration.
Yeah.
But for now,
Yeah.
it is still either through the registration form, which you can fill out either in person or online, and then payment
Okay.
is still what it is. So you have to come to the administration office, or if you have exact cash or a check, you can do it at the Washego Community Center or Coldwater. But hopefully we will eventually get there.
Yeah.
Excited to get to the online registration because it'll be much easier for everybody. But yeah, right now it still is the registration form.
Okay, because you're going to be busy. I can tell you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And there's going to be lots of interest in easier the better for the at the end result. So, okay, thank you.
I think through the chair, I would add to that we're sort of going through a bit of restructuring at the municipality too, where we're developing a corporate services team. So we're changing around positions, and so there's going to be a whole team of people once Stephanie gets them trained to be able to take all the recreation registrations and work with that online. So that's going to free up Stephanie to work on more recreation programming. So that's good that we'll have a lot of people cross-trained to be able to help with registrations.
Great, all good things happening.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Terrific if it was an app so they could see it, register, and pay, and kill all those three birds with one stone. There must be something out there. I don't know.
That's the goal. Yeah, that's what we're hoping will be there at the end.
That's great. Excellent. Wanda, I can still see your hand is up. Did you have your hand up for Stephanie's report as well?
Yeah, I just put it back up. So thank you through the chair to Stephanie. Thanks for your report. Question about the new programs that are coming out tomorrow. Are they, when you spoke about them, are they at both Coldwater and Washego, or one or the other, or it's a mixed bag? Just curious.
Through the chair to counselor. So for the ones that are the jump fit that are going, they are all at Washego just based on the instructor. And then the PA day camps always are run at Coldwater just because of the location and the park being so close right there. So all of the PA day camps are there. And then the Halloween program is at Coldwater. The Washego Art Club one, the Halloween one is at Washego. And then, yeah, so right now it's just the two, just based on the percentages. And then ideally in the summertime, it would be nice to start getting, utilize more of the parks. So like, then it's not just Coldwater and Washego. But since we're kind of getting into that little chillier weather, everything will kind of be indoors for now.
Thank you. And my next question is about, you mentioned something about a budget and when you mentioned talking to instructors. So just a curiosity, because I don't know how it works. I've never been on this committee when there were really programs running. So do programs pay for the instructor costs, or are they treated separately? I'm just curious how it works. Like, do registration fees cover the programs? Is it a profit-making arm of the township? Is it something that the township invests in and subsidizes? Just curious.
Say, Craig, did you?
I can take that one. Through the chair. So it's a combo of a lot of that. So right now we're at the infancy of programming. So ideally you want the program to pay for the instructor and have those costs incorporated into all your staffing costs. As we get going, we're going to absorb some of those costs. We carry a budget for instructors already. Lower percentage of revenue anticipated just because
Oops.
We lost Craig.
Yeah, that's great.
Um,
Okay.
Wanda, Judith
I'm
could
back.
speak Okay,
Okay.
sorry, go right ahead.
Sorry, but I don't know what happened. So as I was saying, yeah, so right now it is a bit of subsidizing. Like we don't want to keep putting out programs and canceling because like a ratio, you probably need like 8 to 10 kids in camps and that for per staff, depending on the fee point you put. So you don't want to set too high at the beginning. So you want to get the public engaged in our programs again. We know they're out there. I've had conversations with the city of Aurelia, but how many of our residents are in their program? So we know they're there. Is getting them back into our facilities and we're going to see this over. I'm estimating about an 8-year plan. Like West Shore will come online in 2 years, which will be a great boost for us. Right now, we're doing what we call the baby steps to get to the end. To what the counselor's asking, will they make money? Yeah, they will make a lot of money for us if we get the public. When I was in Scugog, I started with 20 kids coming to summer day camp. As we expanded over that 8-year process of bringing in more and more programs and programs through the year, because we got the facility and we got the programs, and our camps expanded to 250 kids, and we were making 300,000 for that municipality. So as Severn grows, which is a population of 15,000 now, as we get to those higher numbers, it will start driving revenue. And those are our conversations, which I will be putting together a report on my conversations with Aurelia, but there is a substantial amount of money there that we want to pull back into our municipality. So the more programs we have to start with subsidizing, but hopefully word of mouth, and as our programs develop, we start generating that revenue, and the revenue will help propel this department's initiatives. So
Good, thank you.
for the first part, it's sort of like arenas, how we subsidize arenas, sort of at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, Pat did give us a while back, Wanda, she gave us a brief summary of that, not very formal in any respect, but the fact that they were break even in many cases. Some of them were a surplus, but as Craig indicated, the initial startup, the flywheel effect. In order to get that flywheel spinning, we go red for a while, and then once it gets going, it's like hockey. It's like it's like the ball diamonds associations and so on. Yeah, it gains momentum, and obviously COVID kicked us all right down to grassroots. So
Yeah, no, thank you. And one thing that I hear a lot, especially I live in Cumberland Beach, for those who don't know, and with the 300 or 400 families here, and then the new developments people are starting to move in. People would love, working parents would love to be able to, certainly for the summer, have their kids go to a day program, day camps here in the area, and not put their money out in Aurelia. So I don't know if you'll be ready to do anything or where you could even do that, because there's no public space that's really quite as big enough. But that's sort of, for me anyway, and for people when I'm talking to them, it always comes up at March break time, and certainly they're already thinking about summer. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
you're welcome. Yeah, interestingly enough, for whatever reason, we struggled with youth camps, child and youth camps, so that adolescent and early teen, not considering a teenager. I'm thinking a teenager would be over 16 sort of thing. So for whatever reason, and maybe we just didn't have the right programs, or we didn't have enough awareness, or we didn't have the location. And I think we were competing with Aurelia. Aurelia was more established, and so for what it's worth, well, that's what happened to us there. Excellent. Any more discussion, comments, questions about Stephanie's report on oh, thanks, Judith. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. Stephanie, are we going to look at a March break program maybe?
Through the
Because
chair.
we used to have a good one till the world fell apart.
It all depends on staffing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would be wonderful to. But yeah.
Yeah, because we used to do a couple of trips and take the kids. I can't remember where we took them. I think we took them to Toronto once at the Science Center, but of course can't do that anymore. Anyway, or the zoo. Actually, I think we partnered with Ora Madani on it.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know the one of the I don't know her title, but she handles camps over there. I can
Yeah.
always base with her and see if that's something.
And I think once we stopped, they kept going, but I don't know. But anyway, that's a good one because I do know that March break is a time that most parents are looking for something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'm thinking of like the Christmas time, like Christmas break and March break and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
all gonna depend on
Okay.
staffing and how
Thank
that
you.
will look.
That's okay.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments? Anybody wants to add? All right, then with that, we'll move. We have a motion, Stephanie, to accept the Recreation Cultures Committee minutes, the Director of Recreation's Park Facility Report, and the survey result program update. So we'll need someone to, I think we need to read the motion first. Please.
Yes, please. Through the chair, the motion reads that the following reports be received for information. D1, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee minutes, June 11th, 2024. D2, Recreation Report number R24013, dated September 10th, 2024. Activity report from the Director of Recreation, Parks and Facilities. D3, Recreation Report number R24011, dated September 10th, 2024, Community Recreation Survey results and Program Development Update, and that staff proceed with the development and expansion of highly requested programs, including low-impact fitness classes, outdoor activities, art workshops, and camps, while focusing on evening scheduling and prioritizing youth, teens, and seniors. And further, that staff enhance communication efforts to increase awareness of available programs and continue providing regular updates to the Culture and Recreation Advisory Committee.
Excellent. Thank you. And if somebody would kindly move that motion, Barb, and second, Grace. And now we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? Great. Very good. Moving on then to item E, reports from officials. This is for direction. Do we have a report from officials?
No, we don't.
No. Great. Do we need we don't need a motion for that then, do we, Stephanie? No. Thank you. F, correspondence. Other than the request to name the park, do we have any correspondence? And Craig, did you cover that? Essentially, this is coming from Scott Dravis, pardon me.
Travis, yeah. Yeah, it was through the chair. It was correspondence that went directly to council. So they discussed it. So I just brought it forward for your information because it went directly there.
Excellent. Great. So other than that piece, do we have any correspondence?
No, we don't.
Great. Thank you. And then there's no correspondence for direction either. That would be correspondence for information, correspondence for direction.
No, we don't.
Thank you. Excellent. And council representative update, Wanda or Judith? Judith, you saw your hand up first. Go ahead.
Yep. Just wait. I gotta find my stuff. Okay. So we did a development charges update because we have to do them. And the purpose of development charges, just to overview very quickly, is to recover the capital costs associated with resident. Basically, growth has to pay for growth. The people who are already here shouldn't have to pay for it. So services are related to highways, fire protection, parks and rec, library services, Provincial Offences Act, bylaw enforcement, and growth-related studies. The class of service, West Shore Servicing Area, and Coldwater, they are added on separates because they have water and sewer, septage, and we also looked at septage and hall treatment for the rest of the township because in the future that's going to be important. Give me 2 seconds and I'll find it here. The new development charges are Bazinga. Give me a minute. Got it. The new development charges are now 17,000. They were 9,000, and that's for everywhere except for West Shore and Coldwater. West Shore and Coldwater went from let's see. Sorry, area specific is West Shore went from 20 to 50,000 approximately. Cowater went from 25 to 37, and Severn Estates went from 27 to 17. So if you're not receiving any wastewater or anything, you're $17,000. If I was to build a house with no water and sewer, that's what it would be. The next thing that happened was we had a meeting, and Mariposa House Hospice brought forth a presentation. Very moving. I'm sure everybody has known someone who's had needs palliative care. They asked us for a $12,000 grant for 4 years. Oral Madani does this. Severn has also, right at the beginning, we gave them $50,000, and there's a room named after the Severn town. It's called the Severn Room. They also asked if we would consider $30,000 for a cuddle bed. These are excellent. What it is, it's a bed that the patient is in, and it expands so family can curl up with them or be with them to offer them warmth and comfort. We've referred that to budget. Physician recruitment. We have had quite a few physicians come here. We're a qualifying township for government incentives, so they like us, because if anybody wants to come to Severn, they get $80,000 for physicians who establish a family practice, and there's an additional incentive of a Canada student loan repayment assistance of $60,000. What they also have told us is that Severn has received 18 applications from interested physicians, and there's a new internationally trained physician, but right now we don't have anyone to mentor them. So they're working on that. What the bottom line is they're asking Ramera, Oral Madani, Aurelia, and Severn for $2 per residence. So because we have 14,500 residents, they're asking us for $29,000, and that too is going to budget. We also talked about automated speed enforcement. I had talked to, and staff have, it's what we were going to do is we're going to probably go with ESSA, because ESSA Township is already established. It won't cost us any money for staffing. We will pay them a certain amount, and we will get a certain amount back from the fines. What will happen is signs will go up, and we have to make community safety zones. So it will be areas that we've had the largest complaints from. And for 90 days, the sign will go up and say, this is a community safety, cameras are coming, and then the cameras will come. Any money made will go into a fund for traffic calming measures and anything that we can do to keep speeders from not speeding. We are going to relook at it in a year, but we're going to continue to do it because we felt that this was the only way. The biggest complaints we get are speeding in the township, besides the rough roads, and then we fix the rough roads, and then we get speeding. Report highlights for the ward boundary review is going to happen. The reason is the last review was conducted in 2016, and the reason we are now is because the average electoral count per ward is 2,900 electors per ward. However, we have one ward with 4,000, and that's Ward 3, and we have another ward with only 2,300, and that's Ward 5. In addition, we have significant growth forecasted, which has not been taken into account. So it is best practice to conduct a review regularly to ensure that all our ward boundaries are adjusted for growth that has occurred and is anticipated. Bazinga.
Well done. Great.
Thank you.
That was super. On the speed enforcement, could we do it like Switzerland?
What's that?
So in Switzerland, when you get a speeding ticket, it's
No, we
based on your
can't.
income. So, and it's based on the frequency of what you speed. So it escalates exponentially, and it started at what your income level is at. And of course it goes up from there. And we could just imagine what some of those cars they're driving. So it could be a real moneymaker for a student.
It can be.
Fantastic.
But our biggest concern was more of like stopping the speeding. But if we can get some money to help us for other measures, that'd be really nice. Everybody wants a speed bump. I don't know why, but they do.
So true. Barb, I saw your card was up a moment ago.
So my question through the chair, through to Councillor Cox. Are they going to be trying to form a process to get these recommendations for the areas requiring the speeds, or are they going to be doing it as a survey through the community, or
Okay.
are they going to be doing it as a committee?
So Barb, what's going to happen probably the beginning is the biggest complaints we have is on Coldwater Road and Coldwater and Muskoka Street in Washago. We fixed the problem at Marchmount. And then there is a method for people a form to fill out about traffic calming. Any area that has concerns about speeding and that, you fill this form out and you send it in, and then Derek will have that, and that could probably be a secondary one. But the first ones will probably be those two areas, and any other area that anybody's already sent in, the form to say this is an area that we'd like to be looked at.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Wanda.
Yes. Thank you through the chair to Barb. Yeah, just to add to what Judith said, school safety zones are also in that, and it's going to come back to council. So staff have been directed by council just the last meeting, Judith, I believe, to go ahead and partner with the other municipality and use their software, etc., ticketing systems. But it was community safety zones to be determined, but the deputy did mention the two that are hot topics, and school safety zones is also part of that. So more to come.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Cheryl, I saw your card was up.
Through the chair to Councillor Cox. I'm wondering the Mariposa Hospice, what municipalities do they serve?
Pardon me?
What municipalities does the Mariposa Hospice
The
serve?
Mariposa Hospice serves Severn, Aurelia, Ramera, or Madonti. And if they happen to have a bed free, which he said they've been filled, that they will take from others. Like I've known people who, when Mariposa was filled, they went to Simcoe Hospice in Barrie or Tompkins up in Midland.
And how many beds do they have right now?
They only have 5 beds.
That's it? Oh, okay. Okay.
And they're looking to expand. That's why they built the building the way it is. So it's just like he said, they're like 98% full, but they can't say 100% because they've still got the days where they tidy, clean, and then it's just a continuum. It's really, I've been in there, and it is a special place, and it's very much needed. Like people should have that dignity, and it just has touched everyone. And I think sadly to say that there's probably not enough hospice beds around.
And so everyone knows, Judith, this is the newer facility that is behind Canadian Tire.
It's right behind. Well, you know where it is? Yeah, Cheryl, it's right behind Canadian Tire Plaza. If you just go past it, it's on the left. It's beautiful. They really fixed it up, and it is a beautiful, beautiful place.
Okay. I was just wondering because I do know some cottage associations that are looking for places to do charity type of to help fund with charities. So yeah,
that's a number one on mine.
Okay. That's good to know.
The doctors who started this, and they were just if you'd heard the presentation, if you have a chance to look at it, it just made your heart. It was very heartwarming to hear.
Okay.
And knowing that you needed it is wonderful.
Okay.
And it's in Severn.
Okay, it's in Severn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
If you need any more information, Cheryl, I can get you some. And I can have Dr. Lowry talk to you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Minnings, do you have something to add as well?
Yeah, I do have some updates, so thank you. West Shore of first, let me just back that up. Grants deadlines coming up September 30th. So I'll spread the word, get your grants in. Exciting times. I wanted to provide an update on the West Shore Events Committee, which is a new committee that was struck last year and received their very first grant for 2024 of $3,000. They had 4 events this year. The third one is this Saturday at 4 p.m. at Timberline Park. It's the Taylor Swift dance party. They're going to have the Eras Tour simulcast on a big screen. It's all free for families. Kids will be making beads. Apparently, Taylor Swift concerts, they make beads and exchange them. There's hot dogs and food and all kinds of activities and giveaways and prizes, etc. The deputy mayor donated, she has a family member who did an original drawing of Taylor Swift. So that's going to be the highlight of the event to raffle or give that away. The other thing that the committee did, so the 4 events was Easter, Santa Claus Parade is coming up. It'll be our 4th annual, this time funded. But the other event that they held in July and August for youth, because I know that's sort of a demographic that doesn't always have things to do, something called Jamming in the Park, and Timberline Park every Wednesday night was a bunch of guitars. There's electricity there, so there was amplifiers, electric guitars, all kinds of instruments, and just jam sessions. And I went to a few, and one of the highlights I provided to council last meeting was that lo and behold, there's someone who lives here in Cumberland Beach who was just signed through Sony Music, and his music's on Spotify. So that's really impactful when you have a bunch of kids here in Cumberland Beach and area to participate in that. So really good use of the grants, and I'm really excited to see what comes forward after September 30th. Next Saturday, the 21st, I believe. 17, no. Anyway, next Saturday.
A week away.
The weekends in September are swamped. There's a fundraising euchre tournament here in Cumberland Beach. One of the ratepayer groups is fundraising. So they've got a great 50-50 draw silent auction, free desserts and coffee, and modeled 100% on the Ward 1 very successful euchre tournaments. And very grateful to you guys for sharing that information, because we used it all for our tournament. So anyone who wants to play euchre, it's on the community calendar, all the details and registration information on the township board. I'm on the Aurelia Library Board. As you know, Severn residents get to use full privileges at the library. I wanted to highlight for you that there are some adult workshops, some senior specific workshops that are posted now in the makerspace, and please, you're all encouraged to attend and or spread the word. I wanted to talk a little bit about culture. So we talk a lot about recreation at this committee, and I'm hoping that going forward, we can just spend a meeting for my own benefit to talk a little bit about culture and what our role is as far as informing culture across the township. And it made me think about that because I know at work the focus is on September 30th, which you may know is Truth and Reconciliation Day and Orange Shirt Day. So maybe there's a role going forward through culture for this committee to inform or at least acknowledge. And I know the township does a great job, but I'm thinking as a committee, is there something we can do to sort of supplement or assist days of significance? And with that, it made me think that Chief Ted Williams at Rama was just recently reelected, and we're so grateful to have Rama as our neighbors here. And I know here at Severn Shores Public School, we benefit from the elders, et cetera, who come in and do those teachings. So I really wanted to focus a bit on culture. One of the privileges that we have at the township office, all of us, everyone who works there, flag raising ceremonies, and there were some very impactful ones, and I just wanted to put that on the radar of the culture committee because there may be some that you might want to attend with us. They're usually either 8:30 or 9 in the morning before a meeting or at noon. And they're very, the last two have been very impactful because you have people with lived experience representing various different groups that come. So I just wanted to put that on the radar. And as you know, this is the 30th anniversary year for Severn, 2024. So from 1994, I think. And we put that on the township staff radar, but also, again, just an open question that if we are to talk about culture, et cetera, is there a role for us as a committee in acknowledging or something? That's my update and a few questions. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Wanda. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We have in the beginning, and Judith, you could speak this, Barb, Grace. We had I don't want to say a better focus or a focus on culture, but it was a topic of conversation, and we were trying to balance culture and recreation, and keeping in mind, the focus is for the residents of the community, as opposed to trying to draw attention and bring people into the community. That shouldn't be our focus. We want to make sure it's cultivating and supporting those that live here and that reside here. So the fall colors, the studio tour, it may be a good idea for us to talk about that sort of thing, and we can integrate that into Tracy's social media. So that's a great suggestion. Judith, I can see your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry, I was at this county's economic development meeting today, and they brought forward their cultural plan for Simcoe County from 2025 to 2028. So I will send that out to everybody, or I will send it to you, Stephanie, and you can send it out to everybody. It's just what's going on down there and their plans for the culture, and they're going to make a culture committee and have some meetings, as we suggested, to have people. Anyway, I'll send that to Stephanie and she can send it out to everybody.
Yeah, we had some pretty neat things. Northside Johnny's did the carving competition or carving exposition. Now that may have been a special one-off sort of thing, and I think they asked us for some support, both financially and location and broadcasting. But there was the Christmas lights. I think there was a Christmas light tour. Barb, Judith, Grace, correct me if I'm wrong. There was something along those lines at one point, and there was another one that
we just did stuff because it was COVID, remember? And we
tried
there was
a lot of that
to get people out to do things. Remember, we had the snowman, and then we had the fitness thing, and we had all those things just to help people get through.
Yeah,
lovely COVID. Mind you, if there are days I wouldn't mind a couple of weeks of that peace and quiet.
Yeah, I'm starting to hear from people that go, I wouldn't mind it coming back. I didn't mind having a whole year off. Golly, anyhow.
I just like the peace and quiet.
Yes, so true. Barb, did I see your hand up briefly, or was that just? Oh, sorry, it was Craig. Sorry, Craig.
So just to touch on Councillor Minning's comments, I think you will see culture coming forward. Like, it's my intent to have some kind of public art and consultation with First Nations for the new West Shore facility to deal with that. I think we need to look at that, and any new park development, I want to see public art within that and some kind of heritage interpretation in areas that is required. So we will start getting into more of those cultural aspects. We don't have a lot of policies in place on that right now. Like, my background is, like, I did start in museums and cultural, so I have certificates in cultural resource management. So it's bringing that forward, but I think there are high components of any new builds that we do that we want public art as part of that, and cultural components. So that will be definitely coming to this committee for discussions and directions.
Excellent, Craig. Thank you for that. We're going to lean on you for that. That was fantastic.
No
if you
problem.
accidentally let that slip, that's terrific.
I might have, yeah. I
ran that certificate.
I ran museums for 25 years until I came here. So,
good for you. Excellent. Cheryl, I can see your card is up.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, I totally agree with Wanda that we really need to do more in terms of culture. I think that there's a lot of things that we could actually tap in to this community, looking at the whole historic area. I'm not sure if people are aware, but Millie LeDuc wrote an amazing article about lockmasters in the Port Severn area. So it would be really good if we could tie into some of these to some of the different historical aspects. I just recently learned that the Leatherdale family had a carriage company where they were building carriages way back in the early 1900s. And I just went out to one of their cottages and saw that they had artifacts still from 1919 when they used to bring in wood from BC to build these carriages. So there is a lot of history within this area, and it would be nice to start tapping into some of these people and see if we could bring a committee together or ask. I'm sure Grace probably has lots of stories to tell about the Oro-Medonte area, about Matchadash Community Hall, the schoolhouse there. I know my parents have friends who grew up and went to the Oro-Medonte one-room schoolhouse. So there's so much that we could be tapping into and informing and turning it into cultural activities.
Excellent. Excellent. And with Grace.
Sorry, squeeze one thing in. I don't know if it was last week, there was an article in the Aurelia Matters that focused on the property that was donated or bequeathed to Severn Township. Did anybody get read that?
Yeah,
that was great. I
Yeah.
just wanted that. Nice article.
Yeah, it was.
It was really great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any more comments? Really there, or any questions for either Councillor Minnings or Deputy Cox based on their information update? Great. Okay, and with that, Stephanie, do we need a motion to accept the representative's update? If you'd kindly read us the motion, please.
Through the chair, the motion reads that the council representative update be received for information.
Great, and if I could have somebody move that motion, please. Excellent, Grace, thank you. And second by Jason, thank you. And we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? Fantastic. Great. And last but not least, we need a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:24. If someone would kindly move to accept that motion. And we have Judith moving that, and second, thank you, Wanda. And put it to a vote. Well done, gang. Excellent. So our next meeting is October the 8th.
Yep.
Put it on your calendar, 7 o'clock, same great place, same great time. And we'll see you all then.
Thank you.
Night.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Nice. Bye-bye.